Hello, I'm Alex Mansfield, the host of Manny Talks Shooting, and welcome to another episode. This is the shooting podcast where I talk to individuals all across the shooting industry. We'll talk competition, self-defense, concealed carry. If you like this content, check out our YouTube channel, Manny Talks Shooting. And without further ado, let's get to this episode. Manny Talks Shooting is proudly presented to you by D2 Custom Guns. Did you know that Phil the Groundhog isn't the only thing Puxatawny, Pennsylvania is famous for? That's right, D2 Custom Guns, the home of Dan Heizenreiter and one of the best, fabulous 2011 builders in the country. So make sure you guys go check him out, D2 Custom, anywhere you can see him on the social media, Facebook, Instagram, go check him out. If you see myself, Patches Reader, anyone with the D2 Custom Guns, make sure you go check him out, and you will thank me later. Now, let's get on to the show. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to another installment of Manny Talks Shooting, the podcast on the internet, because that's how we do these things. It's awesome. It's fabulous. This show is proudly presented to you by D2 Custom Guns. So please check out Dan Heizenreiter and D2CustomGuns.com. Go get yourself a limited optics gun, an open gun. If you want a limited gun, he still makes those too, but check him out, D2CustomGuns.com. And without further ado, I got to mention this. My buddy Mark Schulte came out in a big way. He added a discount code for you listeners. So if you want a discount code on Bigfoot Brass, any products he's got on the website, 5% off Manny5. Use it now. It's brand new. It's fresh. If you buy it, it's awesome. And it means that he can afford his two mortgages, one in Ohio and one in Wisconsin. But let's get to the meat and potatoes. So we have a gentleman on the show today that was nominated by a guy who likes chewy cookies. Matt Chua nominated a guy, and it's going to be a good show. So nothing to live up to other than you've got to make sure next match, you got to yeet your mag into the air very angrily. We have Mr. Ken Jang on from Cloak and Dagger and his Instagram page that now is blanking my brain. So we'll talk about that later, though. But Ken, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Just happy to talk with you, and also hopefully the product launch is going well and people are not killing themselves over it, but it's going well. Happy to be here.
That's good. I'm glad to be on here. I didn't know much about you until I talked to Matt a little bit after he nominated you, and I was like, all right, I will send him an invite. Matt's really good about nonchalantly being like, hey, you should have this person on, this person on, this person on. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, when Matt talks and he says something kind of in passing, you kind of get the idea he's trying to tell you to do something.
Yes, a little bit, but it's always good.
Polite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's the only reason they somewhat had a podcast with the Raw Time Champs, but they've kind of all disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay, though, I guess. I mean, I don't even think Coy shoots anymore, and he just plays pickleball, and Connor was the token white guy.
Well, yeah, we still have a Raw Time Champ. It's just one guy now.
Yeah. And really, that's what Chua should do. Chua should just run the podcast by himself.
He could. He's fun to talk to, and he knows a lot. There are a lot of people here. He could probably run it with. Have like revolving guests.
He could. It could honestly work. It could work out pretty well. But Matt, you'll have to figure that out now since you're listening to this. But so Ken, I got a question for you. Mm-hmm. I ask this to every guest who comes on this show. Who are you, and how did you get into shooting?
Who am I? What is a woman? Okay, never mind. Well, I'm just a guy. It's a lot of things. It's like a multifactorial question. I'm a new dad, first of all.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Husband, son, but really a new Texan here, originally from California. I'm a full-time firearms instructor. Now kind of dabbling into the retail space in accessories and things that enhance the training experience for shooters. The way I got into shooting is no kidding. So I lived in California prior to moving to Texas, but while I was living in California, this was around like the late 2019, 2020 time. So we all know what was going on during then, the PSYOPs. But I saw John Wick. This is going to sound like a total joke, but it's not. I swear to you. I saw John Wick. I thought that was real cool. She was shooting real fast. I was like, what the heck is this? And then I saw Lucas from T-Rex Arms. He was pulling a Glock out of his panties, and I was like, this is kind of nasty, but I kind of want to do the same thing. And then I was just like, you know what? People are killing themselves for toilet paper. I should probably defend myself. So that's kind of the inception of how I got into shooting, and then just my background in the more technical side. So in college, I was an electrical engineering major, economics major. So just have an knack for kind of getting into the weed of things. Um, didn't really like just shooting trash in the desert. So just look for more resources that look like more legitimate shooting aspirations. And then I found USPSA and I found Ben Steger and all these other guys. And I was just like, okay, that's kind of like the mark now. So that's what I model a lot of my shooting after now. Still with the roots of like defending myself from people trying to rob me for my Charmin. But yeah, that's how I got to shooting.
Gotcha. So, you saw John Wick. Did you want to? Do you have a Wick blaster though? Since you got it because of John Wick.
No, those things are so expensive. I tried to make my own, and this is what led me down the path of like the Gucci Glock.
Mm-hmm.
Got a Glock 19 because I saw Lucas have that, and then I saw Keanu was rocking a whacked out Glock, and I was like, okay, I can't afford the Terran Glock, so I'll just make my own Terran Glock at home and just max that thing out with Strike Industries and tin. So, and it did okay actually, but yeah, that's another conversation. Just that's the path a rite of path that every shooter must go through to forge themselves in the flames.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. Now, so you got inspiration from Lucas. Did you see that he released a new app like this last week?
I saw the thumbnail for it. I did not watch the video or check out what the app is, but it's like a training app, right?
Yeah, it's like a training app and like a hit factor calculator for all the tactical bros that don't know how to
Cool.
actually use a calculator.
So it's trying to get the his little crowd kind of getting more into the practical side, making it easy for them. That's really cool.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. So you lived in California and you're now freshly into Texas. Why the move?
Okay, so prior to moving, I was doing a remote job. So I was not in the firearms like world at all. California, for people who are listening that don't really know, it's not exactly gun friendly. It's
Right.
not to say that there's like no guns there or not people shooting there. That sounds weird. People who are engaging in like practical shooting type of stuff in California, it's actually really, really big now that I have left. I'm seeing in retrospect now, it's got quite the scene. But I was working a remote job. I was thinking, why not? Everyone was kind of moving to Texas at the time. They were saying it's so cheap, and there's no roster. You can get whatever you want, SBR, suppressor, and I was like, that sounds super dope. And so that's kind of what inspired it. Also came here for something called RX Range Day from Achilles Heel Tactical, which is like the former, more tactical side I was really interested in.
Mm-hmm.
Met some really cool people, and that kind of sold me on making the shift here.
Yeah. Now, when you were in California, were you still competing, or did you compete, or not at all?
No.
So you didn't even get.
It's super new.
Okay, so you didn't even get to meet, the House of Speed, Mr. John Batista.
No. The only competitive shooters from California that I really kind of had more than just a hello to were Jared Murrieta from Ravenwing.
Mm-hmm.
He's a Beretta Langdon tactical shooter. And I took a class with Eric from Howitzer. And he was at the very first class I ever took, which was a .1 tactics class with Donovan Moore. And so I know Donovan as well, although he's not a California resident. And then Bailey Duda from Elite CCW in California. Those are the two main guys I hung out with and know who are in the competitive space.
Gotcha.
I actually know more like California shooters now that I'm away through Instagram. It's like really weird how that happens.
Yeah. Uncle Donnie, as we sometimes call Donovan, because that's how it rolls. I've been introduced to Donovan like a couple times, like at matches, and my buddy Robbie is a training manager at one of the indoor ranges, and he had Donovan for a class, and he's like, "Yeah, come out, just come and stop at the range, come say hi." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And every time I see Donovan, it's just called "Sup, Uncle Donnie."
Dude,
But it gives me a really weird look because it's like an inside joke.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't even feel that close to him. I'll just be like, sir.
Yeah. Now, when you took a class from him, was he like all bearded out, or did he have like a goatee or like clean shaven?
He had a little bit of scruff at the time. This was 2021.
Okay.
So I got into shooting in 2020, and then I immediately got into training, which I think, in retrospect, was a very good decision because first class was with Donovan, and he had already been introduced into the practical side with like he had already mentioned names like JJ Ricazza, Tim Herron, Ben Steger. So he was name dropping all these things already and showing a lot of stuff to newer shooters like myself who were like could have easily gone down like the bro vet path. But it was a very good introduction because, again, the toilet paper thing, I was trying to defend myself. So he had those same roots, but was also going over principles and fundamentals that were very rooted in the USPSA and proven by like the most top level elite shooters side of things. So it was a very good, very fortuitous little fork in the road that led me to the right path, I think. So a lot of kudos to him.
Gotcha. So when it comes to your first match, who took you to your first match, or did you go by yourself?
Match ever. So the first match I ever shot was in California. I was not a USPSA member then. It was more just like a try it out type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And this was before like clubs were kind of recognizing you can do it from appendix. So this specific one was at the Prado range in Chino, and they were like, "Oh, we don't know if you can shoot from appendix." So I had to like separate my appendix holster and like kind of make it a strong side inside the waistband holster, which I guess is safer to them. But that was with my friend Hike, who was a coworker working at my old company, and I think that was in 2020, like mid to late 2020 at the time. So that was like my first match I ever shot, and I was just like, "Damn, this is hard." Like everyone's just shooting doubles, like, bah, bah, bah. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I get it. You just close your eyes and just whack the trigger as fast as possible. And then, so that's like the first time actually doing it, but I consider like my first match ever, like just knowing what I'm even doing in Texas. And that was in 2022, late 2022, I think, summer of them. And that was with like when I met T, Jen, Matt, Firepower United, Calvin, all those guys. And they really took me under their wing while I was here.
Yeah, all those people down there are really cool. I've talked to plenty of them on the podcast, and it's always good to chit chat with them. Like I said, great group of people. David Blanton, even though he's a tall guy, and he says he's the humble marksman. I don't know how humble my buddy David can be. No, I'm just giving him shit because it's his channel
tall.
name. He is a tall boy.
He can be a little arrogant because he's got height. That's the thing.
I mean, yeah, but just I always have to remind him that his friend Charlie Perez is still taller than him.
Oh, I know Charlie. Yes, I saw. I think he was at my first match too. He was also there, just in a different squad. I saw him. I was like, I know you.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of hard to pick the really tall white guy with the panda on his shirt.
Yeah.
But so when well, I guess we'll talk about it from the scent. When you were in Texas, what was did you start with Glocks?
Yes. Yes, I was shooting when I first moved to Texas. I had like a full-on Roland special build. I feel like you're like, who am I talking to right now? Why did Matt bring this guy on? But I had a full-on Roland special build that was just like, oh, this thing looks pretty cool. X300 on it, KKM, whatever. And then just again, rite of passage type of thing. Just in retrospect, I wish I didn't do it, but I'm glad I did do it. I went through like several different platforms. So I went to the MMP, fully ported, all this crap on it, stippled, all the stuff, right? Serrations all the way to the freaking optic cut. And then I went to a Beretta 92, shot the PX4, and then I went to the Glock. So a lot of stuff happened within like the 2-year span. Yeah, but the consistent thing has always been I've always shot a gun that I've carried. And so I'm not really, I know this might hurt your feelings, but I'm not really interested in like open shooting unless it's like open minor with like a ported gun.
Yet. But, you're not interested yet.
Yeah, I shot my buddy Mike Pan's Atlas, and that was pretty cool. But I don't know if I can shove that thing in my pants. So
There's you remember the Filster floodlight?
can you put that
I saw a buddy have that, and he put his honcho in it in
on?
open gun configuration, and he drew it from appendix. It was quite intimidating.
Hmm. I don't know. I don't know if I have the. I have pretty good trigger discipline, but I don't know. Some of those triggers, you shake it just right.
I mean, this is true. It's definitely true when it comes to that.
Yeah, yeah. But now I'm
Nope.
shooting a Glock.
You're okay. Are we relatively stock then, or is it still super bougie?
It's not stock anymore. Let me pull one out. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
That? I'll make sure it's safe. I don't like MDing that often. I've already done it once. Okay, that's a joke for legal reasons. So this is how it's currently configured.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a paint job on it. It's got a K-cam barrel on it. And it's got like a optic cut on it and window. Internally, it's got the Glock performance trigger on there. I've only shot it like 2 or 3 times, and then it has a standard coast shoe. And the only reason why I'm trying to mess with that is because it turns it into like a pre-cock striker gun, like an M&P, and that interested me just because that meant that the striker spring no longer affected my trigger pull. So I wanted to play around with putting a 6.5 pound striker spring into the gun and seeing if that would add reliability and not affect the trigger pull, and it works. So that's been an interesting experiment. I don't know if I shoot honestly any better with this trigger because like once you change anything, you have to kind of just like relearn something brand new, anyways. Like kind of like when you change something in your audio interface or camera setup, you gotta, it gets better. It gets a little worse before it gets better, type of thing. But,
yes, it does.
But no like framework on it or anything yet. But yeah. SRO.
Yeah, is that like did you 3D print that like shroud?
No, this is the hex cap from a company called 100 Concepts. I've not shot with it yet, but I'm just dry firing with it, and it's interesting. It's first impressions are it's kind of like a halfway between an occluded dot and you still being able to see details. So I like that. It's pretty cool so far. I don't know yet.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. The idea of that is actually interesting. So it doesn't mean that you're just seeing nothing. Like if you are, I mean, it doesn't not help you be, target focused, right? The problem is you can still see things past it. So when you do become sucked into the dot, you at least can still see things behind it, so you can still shoot the stage.
Or like another thing that I've run into is like if you're fully occluded, like you've got like completely opaque material on the objective lens. Is if you have like, let's say I'm right eye dominant, right, and I'm doing a transition on something that's very close, and I'm transitioning to the right, I can't actually see what I'm about to move my gun to. So like when you're supposed to move your eyes before the gun, well, I can't really do that unless I like have a wider transition where I can see past the gun. Because before, if you can see through the optic, you can see to the right of it, but when it's fully enclosed or fully blocked off, you can't really see through it with your right eye. See details. So I like it so far.
Gotcha. That is pretty cool. I like that, and it makes good explanation on why that is a product offering for what'd you say 100? I forgot the company's name.
100
again.
Concepts.
100 Concepts. That's pretty cool.
And it only costs you $100 too.
I mean, that's probably true. Just kidding, people. Oh, so here we go. So you went to your first match in Texas. You got your feet wet. You feel pretty good about yourself. What was the biggest thing that you felt that you learned like in those first couple matches? What was like important?
Felt shame, disgrace, depression, confusion, gender dysphoria. Just all sorts of things. It was just everything besides good. I did not feel proud, right? I think it's a great way to be self humbled. Once you're there, it's gonna happen. Like you're not gonna be good. Like people always make fun of the the joke that like you go there as like a 12-year Marine vet and then you get like slammed by a 13-year-old with a PCC. It's like super true. Um, it happens all the time, regularly here. There's a girl named Nami, and she's like 16, and she's a masterclass BCC shooter with like 0.7 splits on 15-yard targets. So it still happens. So I still feel the shame and disgrace on a regular basis. But it was a very frustrating feeling. I think is the overall emotional response, because now I can feel the same things, but I don't have the same frustration because I have a path before me. I'm like, okay, I see what's going on. Like I see pawns being moved around and kind of like an equalizer of like, okay, this thing got better, but I see this part needs a little bit of work. Whereas before I wasn't able to, break things apart quite as well. So it was very overwhelming to see the entire macro perspective of everything and then just be like, oh, I'm bad. And then that was just like the one fat umbrella label that was on my performance. Whereas now I go into a match and be like, okay, I haven't shot for this amount of time, or I have this upgrade. Let me see, is my grip, I can focus on little things here and there. And then now my objectives are much more specific. And that will also dictate whether or not I was successful in the match, rather than just my overall ranking or my splits, overall time, whatever. I'm going with a much more focused game plan now. So same, not like I'm not doing that much better, but the mindset is completely different, and I think that kind of lays out a very, very good trajectory moving forward. I don't know if that answers your question. Oh, I can't hear you anymore.
It's because I muted myself like a ding dong. But you got to be proud of yourself at least. You came in 37th at Area 4. Your first major match. Solid performance right there.
Not terrible, I guess.
I mean, well, it could always be worse. Trust and believe.
It could have been 200th.
Yes, this is also true.
Yeah.
But so when you first, you shot out, you first got classified. What'd you come in as?
B class.
Okay.
I think it was like initially maybe like 62%, something like that. Yeah, and it was hard because my first, I want to say like five classifiers maybe, because there was like maybe one of my matches that had two classifiers in one match. Most of them had one, I think. But a lot of them, if not all of those first five, had strong hand, weak hand, which I was not ever practicing. And then also standing reloads, which from concealment, because I've done all my stuff. I've shot every match, every classifier from concealment. And so that static reload is probably the main disadvantage from concealment, I'll say. Not even the draw, not even like anything else. It's the reload, especially if it's static. And all of them had a static reload and switching off to your non-dominant hand. And I was like, this sucks. But yeah, B class, and I think that's kind of where a lot of solid shooters initially get classified, right? That's like the big kind of void I see where you can get guys who are just like killers when they static shoot, but they just don't understand the game yet. And then there are people who like aren't quite that solid in their shooting fundamentals, but they have enough match experience that they're able to, juice as much skill as possible in that specific context, and it kind of evens out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and that is so true. And the percentage of what B class is just so wide. Yeah. The fact is, if you get stuck in a B class, you can shoot enough classifiers, and they still hurt you enough. Like you might not do great, and it hurts you too much, and then you just keep getting drugged down.
Yeah, that's what I've heard is the B class. B class, I don't know what they call it, but the B class pit, I suppose, is like because of that wide. I don't know, it's like 55, 65, 60 to 75%.
Yeah, that's about right.
That. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have people who are like just missing the A class thing, but then you have to have that consistency of hitting that 75% plus threshold, right? And that's, I think, the merit of the classifier system is like, sure, you can get like a couple of, and especially this is mainly going to hold true if you don't reshoot like a ton of times, but like generally it's pretty accurate, I would say. Like you need to hit enough classifiers at a specific percentage to bring up your score if you're doing it organically.
Yeah, and it takes a minute. Like, and for myself, like, I finally got out of B class, but as more of a fact, my club I shoot normally doesn't even shoot class fires except for a once a year class fire match.
Oh dang,
So you're just
super
like,
slow.
yeah, it
Yeah.
is super slow.
How did that affect your mindset going into a match that had a classifier or that one classifier match for the year? Were you just like, this is the point of why I'm here, or were you just like, this is just the match. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, it was pretty much. I'm just going to shoot the stage to my ability at sight's pace and just have fun. So, and it was very effective. So I can't complain. Especially like the first start of the day was a 25-yard string. It was like a fixed time classifier. So it was just like okay.
Dang.
So I was
Yeah.
just
What
like
else can you do?
yep, just throw the gun out there, shoot the sights, and do as much as you can in the fixed time. So.
Hmm. Yeah. Were you always like that, or is that like a new mindset that you kind of had to force yourself to learn?
I think didn't start shooting matches until 2020. I became a member in 2019, so probably 20 and 21, and probably even a little bit into 2022. When I was shooting different clubs, like I hadn't found a home club yet, and I was bouncing around, so I was still shooting some class fires. Yeah, it was like that was a game. I had to worry about shooting the class fire. Now I just don't even give a crap. It's just like I'm gonna shoot and I'm gonna go try to win the match. Like locally, that's what my goal is right now. Is just push to try to win the match.
Hmm.
And I'm shooting against some pretty good, area competitive masters and grandmasters. So
Yeah. If you can beat them, the classification doesn't matter. It's just like the goal is just to win, right?
yeah, for me, like the one GM that always shoots our club match, it's just be within the ballpark, right? It's like all right, don't give up too much time, have good plans, and we don't shoot the same division, but when it comes to it, it's like all right, if I'm relative to him, I'm okay, and let's not let him get too much of a gap. So.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, that'll keep you sane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was completely content in being in B class for the rest of my time, and just destroying majors and be like, okay, here's another trophy, thank you. Here's another trophy, thank you.
Yeah, the prize table thing doesn't change, right? Depending.
Well,
So,
so most matches up here don't have a prize table. It's like random draw at the match, or most of it goes to staff, like their staff prizes for working the match. Which I work a lot of matches, but I don't disagree on some of that because they're the guys that were there for 5 days. But I also understand where the shooters need to be, um, you know, praised and get a prize because they're the one who make the match happen because they paid the match fee to pay the bills and pay for the staff to be. So it's a
mhm.
like a snake eat snake world.
Yeah. So I'm classified as a master, which I don't say with any sort of pride at all. I've shot. I don't know. I think of the matches I've shot that as a member, I think I maybe have like 13 matches under my belt, um, and they're spread out within like 2 years. So very not consistent. Like there would be 6 month gaps, 2 month gaps, 4 month gaps. Like when I shot Area 4, I had a 4 month gap because that's when wife was pregnant and I was trying to keep like lead levels down. And then we had the baby, and I was like, all right, I'm not going to just leave you here with the baby.
Mm-hmm.
So very inconsistent, but it made it also very, very important that every time I did go to a match, right, when I had those 6 month breaks, that I had a very specific game plan. Because otherwise, it's like, what's the point? Like, why am I going to this match knowing that it's been 6 freaking months, knowing that Nami is going to kick my butt with her PCC? Like, what's the point of that? Um, so, but once, like, kind of like what you said, is once you made the mental shift of like, okay, it's not about the classifier, even though, like, for me, trying to grow my training business and stuff, trying to get credibility and being able to say I'm a master class was important. I'm not going to lie and not say that it wasn't like something that was, in my mind. But once I completely abandoned that and instead thought about grip, sights, and trigger and just technique, and then getting in the right place at the right times, trying to shoot as soon as possible, and thereby finishing the maze as soon as possible while collecting as many points. It kind of just happens. Like the classification or your match performance ends up just kind of being a consequence of just prioritizing the right priorities in the right order, right? and staying focused. Right? There's a Juan Schick, Kim. He talks about focus, vision, focus. Right? And when I teach my classes, I say the same thing: vision, focus. And then also there's another term that people throw around almost interchangeably, and that's visual aggression. And I kind of think of those two things a little bit differently. Like whenever I think of visual aggression, it's like the intensity with which I look at something, or the speed and intensity with which I look at something, or shift my vision onto something. But the visual focus part to me is like almost like the visual endurance as to how long can I stay focused on that small spot. Because sometimes, if you shoot a bill drill or you shoot like a mag dump, whatever, your eyes do start to wander. Like Ben Steger would always say, like people who think there's target focus all the time, it's like they're fooling themselves. And if you see like your shot pattern in a 12-round group going freaking 14 splits, you'll start to see where things drift off, and you'll start to be like, how did I even see myself drifting off? Well, it's because you took your eyes off that spot at one point and started looking at the dot or started thinking about something else. So vision focus, the endurance of my vision, being able to stay locked in has been one of the things that have unlocked me, I think, making M without really trying for M. And just getting out of my own way, like not shooting scared. Like you said, if you can shoot your sights as fast as you can see without over confirmation, that's just as fast as you can shoot, reliably and responsibly, right? So that's been my main thing going into the matches, as a newer shooter, I would say, in USPSA.
Gotcha. So, what made you decide to start a training company in the first place?
It's really about the money. No, it really came from I take a class in California. It was like a Leo specific class, or like vehicle CQB, right? You're shooting through windshields, and you're trying to scan and assess the flat range, all that kind of stuff. And there was only me and one other person who were not Leo or federal officers or something like that. And I saw that the skill level was extremely low. A couple of Leos got sent home for poor muzzle discipline. They're pointing their guns loaded, fingers on the trigger at my back while I was downrange, and they got sent home. And during cold starts, 5-round strings from the draw, unlimited time, there were no holes on this guy's target until the 7th rep. So until 35 rounds, there were 0 holes, and this is a 7-yard target. And so generally what you see on Instagram and stuff is just like, Leos can't shoot for crap, all that stuff. So that was kind of in my head too. And I was like, confirmed, like Leos can't shoot for crap. And I just found myself constantly like thinking of Leo very poorly. And it was validated. So I was just like, yeah, it's true. But when and that kind of happened again, I had a similar experience when my friends were training a sheriff's department in East Texas here, and they wanted some media coverage, so I was helping them with that. And I saw these guys shoot as well, and everything was just slow, everything was not accurate, poor standard, and I found myself saying the same thing, like, these guys are terrible, like, Leo suck, blah, blah, blah. And then I caught myself just feeling nasty about saying all that stuff, and I was just like, there's got to be a way that instead of, like, wasting my breath just bashing these guys who are putting themselves out there, that, like, there could be a more productive use of this kind of energy. And so I like to talk, and I was like, I think I can demo some things. I think I've taken some training from people that know a lot better than me, and I'm understanding what I'm saying, not just parroting. I was like, I wonder if there's a way to marry those two things. And so that's kind of what incepted the genesis of the training company Cloak and Dagger, was to really help people who were in places that they were really humbling themselves to serve the greater good, and to not bash them anymore, and to help other people appreciate as well people who are trying to protect their communities, whether it be like church security, law enforcement, dads, moms, sisters, brothers, all those kind of people, just bringing the merit of the practical shooting stuff into like everyday applications for whatever they needed to do with it, especially in the context of self-defense. So that's kind of like the benefit, the origin of Cloak and Dagger was that.
Gotcha. Which is a nice thing, and I like that you're taking, instead of bashing these guys, you're taking it and you're like, all right, I'm gonna do something better about bettering others and bettering myself. So I appreciate that. Now, how many classes did you end up teaching in since the start of Cloak and Dagger?
Yeah, so Cloak and Dagger was established just last year, almost a year ago to the date. I think October 11th.
Okay.
So we've just passed the 12-month mark, and I went kind of aggressive on the teaching thing just because I told my wife I was going to quit my job, and she was just like, "Oh crap,"
Mhm.
like we're going to go single income out of nowhere. But she was very supportive, and I couldn't do anything without her. So if she's watching this, I don't know how she'd find this, but thank you. And then, but I went very aggressive on this because if I'm like, we're already taking a risk, to half-ass it would just give us inaccurate findings, right? I just wanted to go all in. So from last October until this October, I think I've taught 15 classes, majority of them being not in Texas. So almost every month I've taught a class in a different state, except during the time my child was about to be born, and then the 2 months after that. But as soon as that stopped, I went back, and I'm about to go back to Nevada on Thursday. So I think I've been to maybe 10 different states now. Had a couple of repeat ones in Texas. But yeah, just really trying to expand the network and expose people who wouldn't be into the USPSA stuff, kind of catfish them a little bit, be like, this is an appendix red dot class, guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're like, all right, so hit factor is this. They're just like, what the freak? But yeah, it's been a good time. Meet all sorts of different people. I've yet to be in Michigan yet, or the Midwest. So hoping to go there actually next year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why mostly out of state for you? Why not more classes in Texas?
Yeah. I don't know how I want to say this. Okay, so there's it's multifaceted. So there's the side of like, okay, well, I can't just kind of like drain my local market for everything that they're worth.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, hey, you took this class, take it again next month, the same exact class, and pay me again for the same exact information. Like my entire motivation going to every single class, I can honestly say this, is to put myself out of business. Like I want the delivery and the information to be so good, and you to understand it at such a deep level, and that you can like continue to build upon it yourself at such a high rate that you'll never need to see me again out of necessity. Like it just doesn't make sense from a financial logical perspective. Um, so that's one part, and I don't feel comfortable like making another class that's the same thing to the same people. It would say to me that I didn't do a good job. It might not actually mean that, but it would feel that way to me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one part, and then the other side is like the same people also don't necessarily want to take the same class again. If I did offer a different one, maybe they would. But I have one curriculum that I think caters to most people who are kind of in that I'm new to guns. I know how the gun works, and I just kind of want to know how to like hit the target better every single time and kind of build some speed, all the way up to like a mid-tier B class shooter who's just trying to get into A class type of thing, especially with their carry gun or a red dot gun. And so that's why there's only like one curriculum that I think kind of matches 75 to 85% of what most people are looking for. Yeah, but that's kind of why I go to other states, is to not just constantly teach Texas. The other side that's been interesting from a data perspective is that a lot of the states that you think more people would be kind of into training are not, and the states that you think that wouldn't be into training like are.
Mm-hmm.
So the demand has also been kind of shifted from what I've expected. So like places like California, and people who are listening to this who teach classes are probably nodding their heads with this. Like places like California, places like Washington State,
Mm-hmm.
they're actually super eager to learn. And the main thing that's stopping a lot of instructors from going there and kind of taking advantage of that is the infrastructure and support, which is like the ranges there are also usually kind of owned by fuddy older guys, and they don't like want you to shoot like 180 or whatever, or shoot at certain splits or whatever. If you're not a club member there, they don't want you there. You need to be part of their board and interview in person, all that sort of stuff. So that's another thing as well. Is once I got wind of the demand, and once I was able to make those connections with people who were members at those ranges, it just kind of drew me in naturally to out of state places as well.
Gotcha. No, that makes more sense. But yeah, and I totally agree. You don't want to drain your local pool because you'll never be able to ever teach a class there, because if that's all you take them for, it definitely is. It's no way to have a full-time job in that. That's for sure, because it'll be gone faster than you know it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good reason. And I agree, I kind of agree. Like most people, like your curriculum, as you said, is to that mid B class guy, right, and lower. And I find those are the type of people who want to take a class, right? When you get past that certain level, the willingness to take a class from somebody, I think, diminishes, right? Unless you're talking about, I want to take a class with Eric Graffel or JJ Rakaza, Max Michel, or like Ben Steger,
Mm-hmm.
right? Well, those guys can draw anyone's skill level,
Yep.
which is a lot of people who will, always will take those classes, and those classes fill up instantaneously. It's like ranges around here will bring in Ben, and it's like, how far on the wait list do you want to take a person's name?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But those people that are taking those classes, kind of like how you said, who are like A class, master, GM, they're also taking those classes knowing that not everything that the instructor talks about is going to be new material. They're kind of going in for that one nugget that they kind of may already know of, but it just clicks with them the way it needs to click for it to make sense, and then just have enough supervision and just get slammed with reps, supervised reps, for it to just kind of make sense in that moment. Whereas like the people that I'm mostly teaching right now are like, they've never heard of, a bump transition, like Digital would call it. They just let the sights recover after they're gonna, they're recovering onto a target they're no longer gonna shoot, and then they move on to the new target. They've never heard of predictive splits or reactive splits or done things at 15 yards and out. So that's why it's got a much larger market of people who are more willing to kind of take that class. And that's kind of by design as well. Like there are more people, and sometimes we forget that people in USPSA are like a very small sect of gun owners. Like most gun owners, like I would venture to say 90% plus are probably not training on a regular schedule, and 95% plus are not going out and shooting matches. Like it's got to be somewhere in the less than 5% of gun owners or people who even actively train on a regular basis are out there shooting matches and putting serious rounds down range, right?
Oh, I definitely agree. When I'm out there practicing by myself at the gun club, I am very leery of like the general membership who comes out to shoot, who I don't see at least at one match a year, or the guys that I'm just like, this is the reason why I take the end bay, like the bay at the all the way at the end, that like they've got to absolutely do something very negligent to actually hit me with a bullet. But it's one of those things that our club has a couple bays that are just for like general purpose, right? General membership. They can staple up their own like paper targets to this backer board and they can shoot them. The rest of our bays are all like USPSA style bays where you can shoot a stage, but there's no props out ever because you have to be part of like the trusted crew to be able to go out and open the shed and go pull out poppers and swingers, and because you're not going to shoot up the wall. Or I mean, if you shoot the wall, it's because you're shooting a little early, but you're not negligently or intentionally, I'm going to staple this paper target to this wall and shoot through the mesh.
Oh yeah. No.
At 5 yards from me in the middle of the bay.
Yeah, no, I feel that. You see that every now and then. Luckily, where I'm at and the ranges that I frequent, the DFW practical shooting community is like, they're all pretty squared away, and we've got some heavy hitters here.
Thank you for checking out another episode of Manny Talks Shooting. I greatly appreciate it. And if you could do me a favor, please go patronize our partners when you are available. We have always, as the title sponsor, D2 Custom Guns. We've got Outdoor Dynamics, Make Stuff Better, 2 Alpha Apparel, Range Panda, Laugh and Load, Hunter's HD Gold, and Southern Bobby Q. Now, thank you. Let's get on with this episode.
Yeah, so I've been blessed that I've been able to see very early on, the moment I moved here, just seeing how squared away these guys were and gals are, like T and Jen. They're great shooters, and I was just like, wow, I don't want to be bad anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't blame you. No one ever wants to be bad. I mean, no one ever wants to finish last. Everyone wants to finish in the top. I mean, I remember my goal, I think, for my first ever match that I shot in the end of 2020 was be in the top half of the match. And I shot like a match with like 80 people, and I was like number 38 out of 80 people. So I was like, okay, I wasn't happy. Well, I wasn't happy exactly because my friends had beaten me, but I had met that one goal of shooting relatively good enough to not be terrible.
That's the thing you're describing right now is what gives people so much frustration. Whether it be a match or whether it be like a drill or even if they're shooting a single target, is they'll go into it saying, here's my goal, and then on the fly they'll shift their goal. It's like a moving target. Like you've met your goal, but all of a sudden you're like, I've already obtained that. Now it's I want to beat my friends, and now you're unhappy. Sometimes that happens too in shooting a stage or shooting a single target or single drill. Like you go like, I'm just gonna shoot my sights, and then you hear beep. You're like, let's PR this one.
Right. Yeah, and I think a lot of people are like this, right? So, or someone goes to a class, right? And I remember this. My first ever real class I took from Steve Fisher. Have you ever heard of Steve Fisher?
Mm-hmm.
So Steve's good friends with Tim Herron and a bunch of tactical minded instructors. But I took this handgun accuracy class, right? Just learning how to shoot my sights. We shot B8s the whole time, pretty much, which is nothing wrong with shooting B8s. It taught us a lot.
Yeah. And
I had this notion that I was better than I was, right? And I was probably the second worst person in the class, but I had this ego about myself, right? And I've really learned to check this at the door, especially going to a class until I actually start shooting against people in the class. Like, because sometimes, like in my buddy Tom Castro's class, I've taken it twice. You shoot a stage the first time up, right? You walk the stage, you figure out how you want to shoot the stage, and then you shoot it against everybody. Really, you're shooting against yourself, but everyone wants to be like, how did I finish, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I checked myself and not always thinking that I'm going to be the best until like on that day I know I'm going to be the best. Like, but this is also trying to squad with better people instead of just squadding with people that you're always going to beat or you're going to be the best guy. I honestly hate being the best guy in the squad. There's some matches I used to go to. I was the best guy in the squad. Everyone asking me stage plans, and I'm like, I don't know if it's right because I am still learning stage planning skills. Like that is like one of the harder things is like even after taking a couple of classes and we dive into stage planning, it's always about that risk reward kind of thing that I have to deal with. Or I'm like, well, I could do this. This falls into my skill set, but this is the better plan or the better way to approach it. But do I try to learn the new approach or do I stick with what I know for the most part and execute it, but not gain anywhere in skill level?
Yeah.
So there's always these different things. But getting back to the Steve Fisher class that I took, I learned very quickly that I was not that good, which helped because I was able to pass the qual at the end. I mean, if you call it a qual, it's shoot a B8 and pretty much was shoot a 10-round group in the B8 at, I want to say 20, 25 yards. I don't know if we could go all the way to 20 at that point in that range. And, only drop like 1 or 2 8s. But the whole thing was on you as long as it takes you to pull the trigger,
That's very interesting because a lot of people will say shooting B8s or bullseye shooting is like kind of pointless. And I think for USPSA style shooting, like there isn't too much like application of that specific exact skill set of like shooting 10-round groups at a static target while you shoot still with unlimited time. But I think the principle is totally applicable, which is like, here's the assignment. can you follow the directions and like understand the parameters and just execute it at the best of your ability? And that kind of goes back again to the whole point of focus, like can you keep the priority for an extended amount of time until the task is done, kind of thing. So that's how the CZ shooters do it. Like Eric Raffel his cold starts with bullseye shooting, and then I was like, if he does that, I'm going to do it too. And I find myself shifting my focus and end up falling into a cadence or shooting past my sights or before my sights are ready all the time. It's a great exercise, though.
Well, and I bet you've seen this at a class. You give the line, you give them an assignment, do this drill, and you probably say, on you, no time limit. And guess what? There's always that guy who's like, ba 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 ba.
Most people.
Yeah, and it's like, what was the assignment? Well, shoot the smallest group I can. Then why'd you shoot 25 splits at this when you can't do that on your best day at a match?
Yeah, exactly. It happens. I would venture to say like 65-75% of the students on the line do that. And that's why I choose to not demo until after not always, but sometimes I'll wait to demo until I've seen somebody, not everyone all the time, but like maybe one or two people go. And then I'll be like, okay, before everyone wastes their ammo, let me show them what I meant and what they're doing, and then show them on the timer, right? Because then it gives an opportunity for them to read the data as well and see, oh, that's what it's used for.
Right. And as someone who's taken a couple classes, it's not always about watching the instructor do it. Because there are some instructors out there that just want to show you what they can do, and it sometimes it turns off. It can turn off students or people's just brain shut down and try to emulate that instead of where are you at today, right? Like, what is your skill level today, and what can you apply from these drills or these concepts or these methods to enhance yourself for tomorrow?
Yeah, I've seen that firsthand. I think on average, most of the time, I would say an instructor should be demoing in their class. Like if it was don't instruct versus instruct, I would say, yeah, I would like to see as a student what the right way looks like. I would say that when I demo, over half my rounds are to demo incorrectly, which makes it very difficult to demo correctly immediately following that incorrect demo. That's just more so to show the disparity between what I'm seeing the students do and like what I'm trying to get them to do, just to illustrate it out for them. When I took a JJ Ricasa class last October, he was probably the instructor that I saw demo the least. And it's not like coming at it from like I'm saying JJ doesn't demo type of thing. He did demo. And when he demoed, it was just like well, fudge. That's why he's JJ, But I remember him explaining why he doesn't demo that much. And it was because, exactly like how you said, he was like, if I don't shoot, it gives you guys more time to shoot, and I can watch you. And he's like, if I see something that requires me to demo it, I'll demo it. And I was just like, that makes sense. Yeah, like you didn't need to shoot this. Like we understand the assignment, and we just do it until you need to show us what's wrong. And that made perfect sense. So I try to take parts of that. JJ is very intentional amount of demoing into my classes, and then I see like Ben Sager, who when the students are shooting 1,200 rounds in a 2-day class, he will shoot 600 or 700 rounds to demo as well. And sometimes a specific fundamental requires me to burn some ammo to show the students what the point is, right? And sometimes they'll miss it and I'll have to do it again, and I'll use like 2 or 3 mags, especially when it comes to build drills or lake drills or doubles, something like that. They don't see it the first time, right? So you got to do it multiple times for them.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And there's just some guy that's like, I've taken a class where the instructor even took the student's gun away. It was a movement drill. It wasn't about the gun. And the person was so worried about the gun in their hand that they weren't performing the movement part of the drill. So the guy the instructor took the student's gun away. I'm like, you can have this back once you figure out how to do the drill without a gun in your hand.
Yeah. Whatever it takes to get the student to understand. Although I would say that probably when the instructor put the gun back in his hand, it's probably still brings back some of those nerves and stuff too.
Yeah, it did, but it was leaps and bounds better than what they were doing beforehand. But yes,
just still dissecting. That's good.
So, we've talked about the training aspect of the. Well, I guess before I go there, what is your favorite thing that you teach in your class? You don't have to give away your absolute curriculum, but what is your favorite thing when you teach in your curriculum in your class? But if it's too bougie, don't share it.
Everything I teach is out there for free.
Yeah.
It's just curated, and it's just kind of already packaged for you. That's the thing. Everything I'm teaching is out there from Ben, JJ, Tim, Donovan, all those guys, and they do a great job. But I would say the thing that I teach, or my favorite thing to teach, is really mindset, and that sounds a little woohoo, because people
Right.
are like, "What does that mean? Is it like you're ready to shoot someone in the face?" It's like, no, don't do that, unless you have to. But it's really about setting expectations before you do a drill, and then kind of like we've been talking about for the past half hour is like sticking to it. So I'll tell people, like, because I wasn't aware of this until very recently. Like, there are three things or three modes I like to shoot in.
Mm-hmm.
One I consider like playing it safe, which is like what I would show someone as like a very exaggerated, safe, slow. People describe it as slow shooting, and there's a lot of over confirmation, right? And that would maybe be for me to illustrate or exaggerate a specific part of the drill or shooting. The second version is where I would most likely like to be, and that's like execution mode, which is like shooting at the pace of my sights. And then the third version I show is like exploration mode. And usually between the latter two is where people are like a little bit confused. And that's where usually there's a lot of scope creep going on. Because people will say, like, let me shoot my sights, and I say, hey, I want this run all alpha, right? Which should be in the between the first two modes, right? Between playing it safe and execution mode. A little bit of overconfirmation here or there, maybe flip the draw, maybe you're shooting a 20-yard target coming off from a 5-yard attack target, whatever. And at some point, they'll creep into the exploration mode from their execution mode. So they're starting to outshoot their sights. They're starting to treat their trigger a little bit inappropriately, depending on what the target actually demands of them. And then the question I always ask them is like, why'd you do that? And they go like, I don't know. That's almost always the response I get. And normally the reason why is because they're not able to keep themselves in that lane that they've predetermined that they're going to be in. So that's my favorite thing to teach is like identifying, well, telling yourself, hey, there are these three different modes you can shoot in, and then telling yourself, like mastering your own mindset and your body to be like, let me stay in that specific mode. And then also, furthermore, is like when people think about exploration mode, right, which is kind of like out shooting what you're normally, comfortable shooting. They'll think that's like kind of going off the rails, which in some cases you maybe want to just see what you're capable of, just from a physical mechanic standpoint. But there's very little benefit to that in my opinion when you actually are no longer processing what's happening, right? Like if you're no longer going like, hey, I can repeat this off the rails kind of rate, like, well, what are you doing it for? Like you're just trying to like build certain like mind muscle connections or something, or are you trying to see what happens if you give yourself a little bit less confirmation, right? You're able to process things and repeat them and still think about things scientifically about like, let me replicate that level of under confirmation and see if I can actually start to process that speed and make it my current execution mode. And that's where I like to see people's light bulbs go off and stuff, because me until recently, I wasn't thinking that way either. So when I'm teaching these people who are newer shooters to B class, they're like, whoa, like never thought of it that way. Now it changes their shooting days up. Like I can go to the range and I can do an all alpha day. I can go to the range and say if I stated that, I can go to the range and shoot an execution day, 85% alphas or more. And then I can go and see what I can just kind of do at the very last end of the day or a whole day of exploration and come back and dry fire what I thought were weaknesses or things that I'm still processing. And I know I have a game plan of how to strengthen that up and shore that up a bit, but I'm just currently not there yet. That's like out of my comfort zone, but it's still within reach. And that's kind of where I want people to kind of tickle a little bit, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, that definitely makes sense, and I think that's good for the students as well. They get to learn and explore, yet understand different levels of training confirmation. I'll call them, right. What you're trying to go out there for that day. So it's kind of a little bit of a segue, but still talking about Cloak and Dagger. What made you decide to get into like selling merchandise and like products? Like it's a big leap enough to sell your knowledge and your time as an instructor to then be like, I want to have to supply products.
Well, I don't think about like having to do stuff. I think about getting to do stuff.
Right.
I'm very blessed to be in a position where I can do that. Again, largely in part to my wife, um, largely in part to the mind I have and the experiences I've had that have kind of given me the ideas to make these things. Um, so everything that I've made has been because I was going to buy something again, and I just wished it had something different about them. So um, currently, I have two product lines on my website right now, cloakanddecker.solutions. The first one that dropped was like just 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and that was the Canvas collection, which are pretty much just bougie ranged purses, which I like. I'm like, hey, if I'm gonna bring my ammo to every range session, I would like something that doesn't bang up my walls like an ammo can, and when it's empty, it doesn't take the same amount of space up as like the way an ammo can would, and it can hold more ammo, and it's lighter. And it offers organization if you put it into like a Pelican. And what I was noticing was like every ammo bag had the same design, just a zipper in the middle, and you kind of just spread it open. That sounds weird, but you know what I mean.
Yep.
And you just reach your hand. This is not getting any better. You retrieve the ammo from the said bag, right? And while it was happening, and I was using a competitor's product, and I just noticed that the ammo bag would just kind of close up on itself. And then putting ammo into it, the opening was very narrow. And I was like, I don't know why no one's making an ammo bag that just has a giant hole in the top. So I was just like, I wonder if I make it, if people will think that works better. And then people thought it worked better. So I was like, okay, cool. And then I was going to buy some more pasters, and I was like, you know what's really annoying about pasters is when you're shooting on a summer day, especially here in Texas or in California or you're in Florida. I don't know if people in Michigan know what the sun is, but
only for like 1 month of the year. But yes, we understand what the sun is.
Yeah, I'm Korean and I'm tanner than you, so like that tells me how much sun you get. So
well, it doesn't help that my studio light like hits the wall and it just like still hits me. Now, if I was, let me
you're
open
the same color as the letters behind you.
Well, more like the wall, like the closet behind me. I would like to think I'm not that stark white for people watching video format, but
that would mean you have no blood. But yeah,
well, who says I'm alive? Like now, if you look at me, like if I turn a white screen on my, I'm a ghost.
Yeah, now you're blown out.
Yeah,
but yeah, I was like, what's super annoying is when you shoot a target up and then you paste it up, the thing that you spent money on to cover holes, well then now the sun's behind the berm and you see every single hole you've shot. I was like, what's the point of the paster if you can just get visually distracted by the holes that you've shot, right? So that's kind of what led me to exploring kind of into the paster products, and then trying to pump in features that were like, to me, a no-brainer, but just nobody was doing it for some reason. Like for how many paster products you see out there, like on Amazon, on other websites I won't mention, they all kind of do the same thing, and they all vary in shades of FDE. And when you go to your local matches or even a major, right, and everyone's trying to help, as they should, paste up the targets, well, now you got 50 shades of FDE on a single target, and it's just like, whoa, what's going on, right? And then you still got bullet holes showing through them, and you're just like, dang, this is a mess, right?
It definitely is an interesting, yes, the theory, but no one knows how to check color for some reason. I mean, well, the cardboard could always be different, but yes, it is quite annoying, especially if you wear like the Hunter's HD rubies. Like certain pasters will turn green.
Oh, interesting.
And it's kind of a reason why people would wear them, so they could have like, someone slap some green pasters on the target, so I can target focus on that spot in the middle with the ruby glasses. But so you went out and sourced, or developed, or you've decided to run these products and to eliminate some of the issues that you saw, especially in the training aspect, because it definitely is distracting when you shoot a match and that the sun does hit the berm over the berm and you see the holes through the target and you're like, did I shoot that one already? I don't think I did, but
you already get double dot. You don't need double bullet holes on everything, right? So that was it. And then in some cases, more is more type of thing. Like more capacity is always nice. So putting another 50% of pasters, number of pasters on a single roll, just so you don't have to change out your paster gun. That's like the most annoying part for me about the paster gun is like having to put the new roll in, put the new end cap through the thing, and then lock it down. That's like the most annoying part for me for a pastry gun, besides when they break. So I was like, if you could do that less, and you have less downtime, it's just more efficient, and you're just dispensing better pasters. So it's like,
right, or the fact that you have to waste pasters to put a new roll in.
Yeah, right. You gotta do that all the time. You have that sacrificial tail of pasters at the very end, right?
So the next batch, you could just make more tape, but have less pasters on, like. So then you could have your sacrificial tail go in there.
Well, here's what I do: is I take that sacrificial tail and then I just cut it off, and then I do use them. Use them. And what's cool about these two is I don't know if you've opened them yet, but I'm calling it Blackout Tech. It has nothing to do with. Yeah, it's called Blackout Tech, right? So the back of the paster is actually black, and that helps prevent certain frequencies of light to pass through the actual paster. But what's cool is if you take that tail end that we're talking about and you just be like, what the freak do I do with it? You can actually use those pasters and make like a little roll and just keep them for later. And if you ever want to experiment with a visual marker, you can just kind of double side the paster on itself and use the black end as a visual marker for specific aiming schemes or aiming points on the target if you want to. Mm-hmm. So that's what I've been doing, and it's been working pretty well. It's super sticky, and it's pretty utilitarian if I do say so myself.
Well, you have to say so yourself. You're the one who released it, so you gotta have the buzzwords for it, right?
You're right. I am the worst salesperson on this planet, though, and I've read Zig Ziglar, so I'm just not a good student, I guess. But yeah, that's the patch me up rule. That's actually dropping like literally as we speak right now. Yep. And then there's another one. I think you have it as well too.
The big sheet.
Yeah, that one's called the Respawn.
Which is super cool, right? So, like, especially for you, I bet it's like, okay, you don't want to buy a bunch of targets and carry them for classes, right?
Right.
So the cool thing about these is like I can get probably twice the amount of life in my paster roll and in the target by putting one of these on here.
Yeah, like if you're dialed in and you're shooting like a bill drill in a fist, and you do it like 2 or 3 times, you kind of just chip away at the cardboard in the center, right? And that you can either just use like 30 little pasters to bridge them together, and then once you shoot through them, it takes away like 4 pasters with it, or you can just resurrect the entire A zone and put actual structure behind it, because the respawns are actually not just like a larger version of these; they're thicker, so that if you hold like the respawn on its side from the middle, it kind of has a little bit of rigidity where it'll try to stay erect, if you will. And that's just so that when you do shoot bullets through it, it punches out clean holes. And then on top of that, because it is covering larger amounts of cardboard that are missing and more light is going through there, that extra thickness allows more light absorption and prevents the light also from coming through. So that's all by design.
Right. And it's a good design, and it definitely will aid in training and getting the most out of your time, because I mean we don't all have a million hours to go beyond the range, right?
Yeah.
And it definitely will aid in the quality and the comforts of life, right? So
I do think so.
And I'm hoping in the near future you'll be able to come out with IPSCs, because IPSC are fun to shoot, I guess, if you're a glutton for punishment. But I do like this. But the best part is it covers my face and it makes me look tanner if you're watching the video. No, not really. I'm still pasty.
Just your forehead.
Yeah, just my forehead.
The other thing about those that I think some people may not be thinking about is just time, overall efficiency, and the economics of just being able to save targets. Like I've had targets that I could have definitely saved that I was just like, once there's holes through them, I'm just like, it's not worth saving them. But if I had just the A zone completely replaced, it's just like a brand new target again. And plus, after a while too, once you have a bunch of pasters on the center of the A zone, even though they're all in the A zone, after a while you see so much paper mache going on. It's like it's like a bird's chest in the center, right? You got all these feathers sticking out, and it's
Mm-hmm.
also visually distracting. So the respawning is also a way to just give you a clean, smooth finish on the chest again. So,
Right, and you're saving a lot of time. If you're gonna have to put a million pasters on there to repair the hole, it's time to put
yeah,
a replacement on it.
yeah, just respawn it.
Yep, respawn.
Yep.
I like that. It almost reminds me of like Halo or something like
Yeah,
that.
that's literally what it's from. Yeah, Halo or Call of Duty, you just respawn back into the game.
All right.
You
So,
just
better question
resurrected.
is: were you a Halo guy or a Call of Duty guy?
I was a Call of Duty guy.
Okay.
I was not an X. I did not have an Xbox. It was a PlayStation 2, 3. I
Mm-hmm.
got into PlayStations late, like right before I went to college, so
Mm-hmm.
very late. Um, and that's what got me into like guns and stuff too, like military stuff. Um, I was a ROTC guy in college, but that has nothing to do with what I'm doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Call of Duty was where it's at. Black Ops 2.
Yeah, I actually I don't know. It's probably been since 2016 or 17. I've got rid of all my consoles and things. I didn't have the time and I wasn't putting enough effort into them, so I just got rid of all my consoles and
Dude,
I'm
now when I
content.
see people play video games with like sensitivity on 10, I vomit. I get motion sickness.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you watch your Insta360 camera, you're like, it's kind of faster. Like,
So this is funny. You mentioned this. I whenever I shoot a match, I have the hat cam,
mm-hmm.
and the next Monday I go into work. I'll talk to a certain coworker, and I'm like, "Do you want to see a Call of Duty video?" And
Yeah,
it's my hat cam footage, and he's like, "Oh man, this is so cool! I love this. It's so fun." But he's more because it reminds him of Call of Duty, and I'm just
that's
blazing on
awesome.
targets. But
That makes you feel good, I bet.
it
And then he's
does.
like, and then he's like, but did you get your alphas though?
See, trying to explain them the scoring zones is hard enough. So just telling them the best points and fastest time wins. That's all that matters.
Yes, that is literally
Just like Matt Chua says, raw time champ.
it.
You have half the equation if you have the best time.
That's true. That's true. Accuracy by volume, accuracy by time, or lack
Yes,
thereof.
well, yeah, and as soon as I learned that points don't necessarily equal points, they kind of points are still time, or
Mm-hmm.
is it time points? Either way, right? If you do something super slow and all those makeup shots add up, right?
Yep.
It's like, oh, but I didn't have a miss. Yes, but you also added half a second, 3/4 of a second, a whole second because you didn't give enough visual patience to like that popper or the tux target, and you had to make it throw another one and another one.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The hit factor math is a thing. That
Mm-hmm.
part. That part of the. That's to me is why USPSA like. I know there's a whole like shift to like tactical community saying if you don't shoot matches you're like a fake shooter or whatever, but I'm like there is a side of USPSA that is like still a game that like you have to understand that like sometimes the best shooter isn't the one that's always getting the highest hit factors. Like there is there's a experience component to it. Like the best practices for like entering onto this kind of array, how you would
Mm-hmm.
best exit, and like stage planning is its own like art form, right? Like you don't just get that from shooting really well. Like you need to know from talking to somebody or shooting a lot of matches, like what a good stage plan looks like, and especially to your strengths.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I mean, I used to shoot relatively locally to me a super squad level open shooter, and he was able to literally tell you the hit factor of the stage before anybody had shot it, and he would know
Crazy.
like the makeup shot's going to cost you this, a mic's going to cost you this, so do better. It was eye opening, and I told him it's something I still never can figure out because it's just something I haven't figured out the math yet and whatnot.
Yeah, I'm still figuring that out right now, but I don't like to think about that. I just like to shoot as fast as I can see, and that kind of lets other things kind of fall into place the best
Right.
it can.
So, what are your current goals for what? I'll start with this. Current goals for your shooting right now.
Current goals. Well, I
Mm-hmm.
would like to shoot more matches. Get to a place where I'm shooting matches once a month would be great. And training more on an individual level for myself would be great. I think a lot of people who teach understand like once you're teaching, like in traveling especially, and doing other personal things, that your own personal like training time also seems to decrease. But trying to balance all of that would be great. And then consequently, I'd like to GM from there, as well as a consequence of just knowing how to play the game and then allowing my shooting ability to just um, enhance that match experience. Because I don't think right now as far as I know, I don't believe there is a grandmaster in carry optics from concealment. I think that might change pretty soon. I think Donovan's probably going there pretty quick, and maybe Santi from Florida. So I want to beat them. I want to beat them to it. So that would be a cool goal to have in the shooting, my personal shooting goals.
Right. That would be, and it'd be pretty cool. And I believe Donovan made master shooting from concealment, but he never shoots enough matches as it is. This is the first year I've really seen him go and shoot like major matches as well.
He's going hard at them too.
Because I think he was just at Area 4, wasn't he?
Yep, I saw him there.
Yeah. So when we talk about Cloak and Dagger, what's your goal? Your goal, short-term goal, maybe like a year from now, and then maybe 5 years from now.
Short-term goal would be to, set the 2025 schedule and teach every class that I have on that schedule. That's really the main thing. Right now, I'm not out there to just freaking get 15 students a class, 20 students a class, heck, 40 students a class. It's really just teach whoever is willing to learn. And as long as it makes sense number-wise to go out there, that's kind of the thing I've been going for, is just like, as long as it makes sense to go out there, I'll go out there, teach whoever is putting themselves on the line and is wanting to absorb this information. And then from there, I just trust that the Lord has plans for me, just to, if I come back again, that there's referrals, repeat customers, whatever, and that things will work out the way that they should. And it's a free market, so if it doesn't, that just means that nobody likes me, right? From the retail side, it would be to put out things that people honestly think that a solution is necessary for, and not just make something that is all hype and then people get it and they're like, this is terrible and you are a con artist. It's something that people are like, man, this was not cheap, but like if it broke, I would gladly pay for it again, type of thing. And that's that type of catalog where I have a breadth of products for people. Every time they go on, they're like, this is dangerous because I want everything, and it's all legitimate, and they can tell their wives or girlfriends, like, I need this because this, and their girlfriends are like, you know what? That sounds legitimate. You should get this, and this. That's like the website and product catalog I'm trying to put out. So next year, I have a bunch of stuff planned in the pipeline that I'm R&Ding right now and getting manufactured. 5-year plan for both the training side and the retail side is to really build a network where shooters from all over the country know who I am, where if they see me at a major match or whatever, I'll probably smoke them, but I'll also be very nice to them. And that it just makes them want to learn rather than be discouraged, and just really inspire shooters to seek knowledge, like legitimate knowledge, and then know how to take that knowledge and do more with it moving forward, rather than constantly having to be refueled, right? And then also, again, with the products, continue to solve problems and make things that people are not even knowing that they have a problem of yet. They've just been tolerating, and just get in the minds of people who I encounter on a daily basis, and just hear their little grievances and being like, you know what, that's legitimate. Like, that sounds like there's a need for a fix for that, and just help them feel validated with a product that comes out and actually makes their lives better,
Yes, I definitely understand that. So here's where I was going with this. So wow, I guess brain fart. I had it and lost it. And this is the worst part about being up all day and just going all day and just getting up at like 4 a.m. to go to work and shit, is that you lose track of thought pretty easily. But it's all good. I think I brought it back now. So, God, I need more coffee in my life, I guess. But if people wanted to get a hold of you, talk to you about anything, where's the best places to reach? Like, obviously, there's the website. I forgot the URL because I'm not looking at it, but it's good for you to say it because it puts more value to it.
Yeah, it means something different when I say it in Korean.
Yeah.
But it's the website. If you go into like your Chrome browser or whatever, it's just cloakanddagger.solutions. It's a very weird domain name. And
why is it a .solutions? Why did you pick
.com
that?
was taken. So I was like looking on Big Daddy, and I was like, what else is there? Like .NET sounds kind of lame, like whatever. So I was like, and then .solutions was like the next on the drop down menu. I was like, that's so like weird that people might remember that, and people do, and it just sounds like kind of like tactically named, people. It's like a cloak and dagger solution. Like it's a solution that requires this kind of finesse and discretion, And so that's the website name, and then that same cloak and dagger solutions is the company's Instagram handle, and then my personal like persona Instagram handle is tactical tones _actual, and that's where most of like the match footage is going, and like kind of more tutorial stuff is going, but that might change.
Good plan. Now, I don't know if you're sponsored or partnered or affiliated with any other company, but if you are, this is kind of the part of the show where I kind of let you do that.
Oh yeah, Cloak and Dagger is sponsored by Cloak and Dagger. So
there you go.
If you need some taster products, man, or some ammo bags or whatever, the website currently has both stocked right now. So head over to cloakanddagger.solutions. People that I'm not sponsored by, but I just know put out really quality products is Ice Attack Arms in Carrollton. Does great optic cuts, porting. I'm not really a porting kind of guy, but man, like his porting actually works, and his turnaround times they're great. Other than that, I would say like if I am not teaching a class nearby, there's plenty of great instructors out there. JJ, Ben, Tim Herron, Tom Castro, you mentioned it. I would really like to train with him. David Wampler, Angel Sanchez in Massachusetts. Man, that guy can shoot. Mike Pan in New Hampshire, Mason Lane, those guys. All out there, get training. Stop wasting your ammo on a tin-coated barrel for a Glock 19 with a compensator on it. And Strike Industries parts.
Yeah. I mean, but it does look cool. Hey, well, that's not true. My Glock does have a Strike Industries mag button. Just because it's just enough. It's a little bit longer.
Okay, that's legitimate. That's legitimate.
Yeah. But the problem is I stripped the screw, so I'm never getting it out. So.
Oh, man.
But it's the tiniest Allen screw ever, and I'm like, why?
You stripped it too? How?
Okay, I rounded it off. It's not hard. The metal's not that hard anyway.
That's because it's Strike Industries, though.
This is true, but I only paid like $12 for it, so.
It's because it's Strike Industries.
You get what you can get sometimes. Yes.
You get what you pay for.
But everyone else didn't have like a button that was what I was really looking for too. That was the problem. Because you didn't want it too big to do reloads, or you're dropping them. This is my B class, like my C class, B class days.
Just stock, man. Just get longer thumbs. That's what you need.
Yeah, let me just get a thumb stretcher.
Just get longer thumbs. Everyone who's complaining about the ergos on their gun, just change your hand. Just change your anatomy. That's it.
Yep.
See faster, shoot faster, stop missing, run faster. That's it.
Exactly.
Everyone's a GM.
Boom, all the way to GM. Exactly. So, Ken, this has been a blast. I think people are going to enjoy this one, get a lot of information out of it. Hopefully they go buy some products. I know I'm going to be excited to test out these the Respawn and the 3000 paster roll. I'm excited to check those out. The note, so if anyone watching the video, he sent me a cool note when he sent this. We just happened to like record the same day it showed up. So yeah, I love the wax seal. I've got a wax seal collection in the other room from just writing notes and stuff and just putting a wax seal on it. But mine's not as custom and bougie as yours. But
yeah, my wife designed that too.
Bam. She must be like some smart designer then.
She is. Very. Yeah, man. Hope people enjoyed this one, and thanks for having me on.
No problem.
I don't know why I'm on here.
It's because remember, Matt Chua said so. That's all that matters, and we had a fun conversation, so it all works.
Yeah, it was a good one.
It was a good one. But to the listeners, get out and do the things. We'll see you on the next one.